Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the planning portion of today's meeting. Dr. Warren, Susan Warren, has had to leave us, so just to formally record that she isn't present for this part of today's business. The other extremely important thing I have to do is to welcome Joe White, Mr. White, to his first meeting now with us again, in charge of development control here. And how pleased we are to see you, Joe. Welcome.
Thank you, Chairman.
So, the first application that we have to deal with this afternoon is WTCA 24/01, and this is in respect of Chipleys through Rosemary Lane, Dulverton. Mr. White.
Chairman, thank you. Hopefully I won't be too long on this. It's just really to highlight that this application relates to works to trees and conservation area, and it comes before members today because the applicant is a member of staff. As the Chairman's pointed out, the site is Chipleys. It lies in Dulverton conservation area, hence why the application is required for the works to the trees. And the proposal involves the laying of a beech hedge along part of the boundary, which I'll just highlight in a moment, and the removal of two semi-mature ornamental flowering cherry trees. So just on a bit more of a detailed plan, this plan picks up the two cherry trees within the garden space, and then along part of the boundary is this beech hedge. That's photographs just showing the beech trees. The view is they would benefit from being laid, is sort of common practice within Exmoor. The left photograph there again is picking up the beech hedge, and you can see the cherry tree here, which is proposed to be removed. That's one of the cherry trees, and those two photographs pick up the other two cherries. The cherry trees are of low value, so their removal is judged to be acceptable, and their removal would also benefit some mature trees next to them. And the beech hedge actually would benefit from being laid and sort of secure that hedge in the longer term. The recommendation is that it be approved. There's no need to serve a tree preservation order on those trees. Thank you, Chairman.
Mr. White. Thank you. Dr. Kelly. Seconded. Mr. Yabsley, did you want to say anything other than thirding the motion? Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak, please? If not, it has been proposed and seconded that we should accept this application. May I see all those in favour, please? That's passed NEMCON. Thank you very much. The next application that we have to consider this afternoon is 6/14/23/003, and that is in respect of Black Pits at Simmonsbath. Mr. White.
Thank you, Chairman. This application is actually it seeks a certificate of lawfulness to confirm that the works proposed aren't or don't require planning permission, i.e. they're not an act of development. The site relates to the old World War II barrack hut just above Black Pits, or in a Black Pits gate, as shown on the red dot on the plan. That's a slightly closer view, so we can see which building we're dealing with. That's an aerial photograph. And then if I just get the elevations up, that's an elevation drawing. Essentially the works would see the existing corrugated metal removed and replaced with new corrugated metal, which would be brush painted. So it would obviously give it a fresh look, but essentially the material would be the same, with the same profile and the same appearance. There's some works to repoint the stone plinth at west end of the building and some repairs to the timbers. That's just showing the existing building. Ultimately, Chairman, it's officers' views that the works wouldn't materially affect the external appearance of the building, so under the Planning Act they would be excluded from the definitions of development. So officers are recommending that the certificate be granted and that we confirm that the works can be carried out without being a means of development, so no planning permission would be required. Thank you, Chairman.
Actually, it's a World War I building, isn't it?
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm just going to move the recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Seconded by Dr. Kelly. Does anybody wish to speak to that, please? Mrs. Nicholson.
Just a little bit of a query. I understand it comes to us because it belongs to us, and we're the applicants. On the other hand, in general, we have taken the rule that certificates are not something that come to members because they're a legal matter. Just how does that particular bit play out?
Ultra transparency, I suppose. Mr. White?
Exactly that, Chairman. Under the scheme delegation, it gets trumped by virtue of the fact that it's an application that the authority is making, so it comes before committee on that basis. But you're right, usually these won't come before committee. It simply is because it's our own application.
The justification for it not coming before members is that it was a legal matter and therefore it wasn't members' business, rather than that it was the scheme of delegation that didn't need to. And so we are here sitting on something which is a legal question, which we generally avoid doing.
Yeah, well, as they say, planning must not only be seen to be done, it must be seen to be believed. So, and we have the lawyer's advice.
We've had legal advice on this. Thank you.
Yes, Fran.
Just a query on, it says it's the First World War barrack hut, but later on it says the Fortescue estate used it to provide accommodation for shepherds in the 1920s. So
it was relocated. It was bought by the Fortescues and taken to Black Pits for that purpose.
Thank you.
Because, as you can see, I mean, it's basically a, in inverted commas, prefab. So that's what they did.
Yes, just a quick query, Joe. It says here that it was initially believed that planning permission would be needed because of the historical nature, but it's not a listed building. Could you elaborate on that a bit more? Why was it initially thought and then decided not?
I think it was more of a cautious assessment of it initially in terms of the works, but it was on a full assessment of the details.
Okay, are there any other questions, please? If not, it's been moved and seconded. May I see all those in favour? Any against? Right, that's NEMCON again, thank you. Thank you very much for that. And so we move on now to actually a very important part of the planning agenda, which is to review the delegated decisions, because, as I've said before, it's not actually just that we get to consider the more tricky applications, but we should be aware of those things that have been decided under delegated approval, or indeed declined, and we need to be aware of what is and is not being approved. So what we will do, if we may, ladies and gentlemen, is go through page by page, and if there is anything then that you wish to draw attention to, please shout on that page. So page 1. Okay. Second one up from the bottom there, Mr. White. We're seeing a number of these applications at the moment for the change in the number of antennae and in some instances height adjustments to masts as well. So there's an awful lot of mast work going on in existing sites.
Chairman, some of those are permitted development, and the very nature of these applications is we're then looking at the siting and appearance. But I think there's 3 in this list here, all come from Cellnet UK Limited, and they are relating to works by Vodafone essentially to improve their network.
Page 2. Yes.
Thank you. I was just interested in the second up from the bottom about withdrawal from a proposed extension. I just wondered, it just seemed a strange thing to withdraw it once you sort of put it in. Is there a reason behind that? Or? Oh, don't.
No, Mr. White.
They may know more than me. So I mean, essentially, it's a scheme that's come in that I think it's fair to say officers have concerns with regard to the design and scale of the proposed extension. Sometimes applicants, having had regards to those concerns, will withdraw an application with the view potentially to resubmit something that's different, and we can then take that further forward.
That's my question, really. Thank you.
But just so members are aware, there is an ongoing series of issues about the youth hostels at Exmoor, because it, a youth hostel is apparently a sui generis use class, and so that makes it very difficult for the now owner of the building to be able to come forward with alternative schemes that meet planning policy. It's been a real issue over the last several months, hasn't it? Okay, no, you you will discover, Mr. White, that it has been a real issue over the last several months. So you may well see other things coming forward relating to that site, but that's the essential difficulty. It's a one-off. Anything else on that page? Page 3. Yes, the last one was refused, which is rather interesting.
Chairman, I believe this had issues with design and materials proposed in the works, and there was more information required in terms of the ecological assessment. So that's ultimately why it ended up with a refusal.
Right, over the page 4. Anything on that page?
Not the withdrawn one.
So that's at Duxham's.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chairman, Duxham's, basically the works went beyond what would have been a non-material change, so it would require a full application.
Okay. Page 5. Okay. Yes, Mrs. Chilcott?
Excuse my lack of knowledge. What did final disposed of mean?
Oh, in the middle.
Yeah.
Which those isn't quite finished, actually.
Well, yeah, so there's, I guess, a power open to local planning authorities to what we call finally dispose of applications which have been in the system for a long time and not advanced. And this was one of those cases where I think it's an application we've had since 2019. I don't think there'd been any advancement on the case for probably a number of years. So the case officer in that instance wrote to the applicant and said, look, it's not moving forward. We'll use our power under the Development Management Procedure Order to remove it from basically the register, and that's what's happened.
Thank you. Just for me being a novice, it'd be really helpful to have some reference to that old date in it somewhere. Just to just see it was an old one because I couldn't tell on the first look.
Just quickly on that, Chairman. So, I mean, the application reference is, the only reason I know it's from 2019 is just on the reference, the year is usually included in it, so that's, if you like, a rough idea of a date of an application.
So the third element of the reference.
Yes, yeah,
That's right.
Okay, over the page 6. Seeing as we're not a planning authority, we do seem to have an awful lot of applications to have to deal with. Those watching online will have no idea what I've just been talking around.
Isn't that fine?
Page 7. Page 8.
Yeah.
Mrs. Nicholson.
Not determined. And withdrawn.
So, well, the not determined one, Chairman, so again, that's an application for works, trees in the conservation area. The authority has a 6-week period to determine those. In this case, assume we didn't have any concerns with the application. 6 weeks passed. It's therefore assumed it's okay. The application then not determined. That's how it's been closed. Sorry, did you ask about the withdrawn one as well? So yeah, the withdrawn one, this one is one with design concerns. You'll see it's retrospective, so obviously the work's already on site, but it transpired through that application that in any case it might actually have been on site for long enough, so they're either going to come back in with a revised application, planning application, or submit a certificate of lawfulness to try and show that it's now immune from enforcement action.
Okay, page 9. There are two refused ones in the middle.
Oh, yeah.
One at the bottom, but one's in the middle.
So yeah, the first refused in the list, Chairman, that's actually an application for works to a tree which is subject to a tree preservation order. So slightly different than what we already looked at a bit earlier this afternoon. This tree in this case is obviously a particularly important tree, hence why it's protected by an order. There were works proposed to that tree which were judged to be harmful, and the justification for the works weren't considered to justify the harm, hence why that was refused. The second one, at Parsonage Farm, that came up against design and scale concerns, that's why that was refused. Yeah, the last one, interestingly, so okay, this was another application where essentially a house has been built in the wrong position. The developer is currently seeking to resolve that. Part of that attempt was to submit what's called a non-material amendment, but it was a situation where, though the changes were too significant to be non-material, they're going to have to address it a different way, so that application was actually refused to close that one down.
Okay, everyone happy with that so far? And then the last page, page 10. The last two.
Yes, so the first of the two withdrawn in the list, that application actually requires planning permission. They submitted it as a prior notification, but it's a building which would house livestock within 400 metres of protected building. So under the permitted development order, it actually falls outside the scope of permitted development. They are required to make a planning application, so we expect that to come in as a full application. The last one on the list that's withdrawn, this was one where we had concerns regarding actually whether the building was suitable for conversion in terms of its structural condition, but also in terms of its location. It's quite an isolated building, so in raising those concerns, the applicant made the decision to withdraw.
Okay, so if there's nothing else then, ladies and gentlemen, I will draw the planning portion of the meeting to a close and turn to the chairman of the authority so that she can close the meeting formally, at which point I believe that there may be an informal item that we have to discuss.
Yes, so thank you very much for coming along. We're now going to close this meeting